Most TV shows have their core group of characters in place by the time cameras roll. But sometimes, characters are lost to the red pen or the cutting room floor at the very last minute. Many TV shows film a pilot episode to test their premise, see what works and take note of what doesn't. And it's not uncommon for things to change between that first episode and the full series, and plenty of characters have been removed after a pilot. Sometimes, though, we don't see those early episodes. In the case of The Big Bang Theory, the unaired first pilot contained not one, but 2 characters who did make it to series. Much has been made over the years about the character of Katie, played by Amanda Walsh, who was removed due to a lackluster response from test audiences.
Allow me to explain it to you in your language. Nerdish.
But there was another that's less often talked about, the geeky Gilda, played by Iris Barr. A scientist just like Sheldon Cooper, she was the 3rd member of the original trio of nerdy friends. But producers decided to rework the dynamic and remove the woman from the group.
Fire her.
The character was essentially split in 2, becoming the characters of Howard and Raj. Katie was replaced by Penny, and the series had its iconic main cast. But the absence of women on the show was still felt, so it later added 2 more, Bernadette and Amy. Created by producer Josh Schwartz, the 2007 action comedy Chuck made both Zachary Levi and Yvonne Strahovski into TV superstars. But one member of the original cast of Chuck was left out in the cold, with all of her character scenes removed from the pilot episode. That character was Kayla Hart, played by Natalie Martinez. Kayla was to have been introduced in the pilot as the long-term love interest of Chuck, an ordinary man thrust into the high-stakes world of international espionage.
I'm nobody. I'm the supervisor of a nerd herd at a Buy More. Maybe one day I'll be assistant store manager, and I don't even know if I want that job.
Kayla was a tenant in Chuck's apartment building, and in early drafts it appeared as if she was being set up to recur throughout the series, forming a love triangle between her, Chuck, and Sarah. In the end, showrunners decided Kayla's presence was a bit too much. Not only did they feel that it wasn't believable to have 2 women fawning for their bumbling main character, but the added complication of a second love interest overcomplicated the story. While Martinez has had a fine TV career since, she never did reach the same level of fame as her 2 co-stars. Empire was created by Lee Daniels and Danny Strong and starred Terrence Howard as a powerful music mogul. When the show was first announced, actor and singer Macy Gray was a high-profile addition to the cast and filmed all of her scenes for the pilot episode. According to Daniels, though, when the episode was sent to network executives for notes, they demanded one major change.
We are going to change all of that.
Daniels told The Hollywood Reporter, "There was a character that I wrote into the original pilot who was Akeem's love interest, a mother figure played by Macy Gray. There was a love scene, and they said, this is too much. Apparently, the steamy story didn't sit well with the executives, and Gray's character was gone." The fact that Gray was never brought back, however, suggests they may have had more objections than a simple love scene. Whether Gray was intended to be a recurring regular or even a main character isn't known, but she would have added a powerful real-life singer to the ensemble. The idea of a TV show breaking the 4th wall has been around a long time, but the concept gained renewed popularity in the 2000s, thanks to series like The Office. Modern Family took that idea and ran with it, though it's never really mentioned who the cast is talking to or why. But that's only because a major character was cut from the show's first episode. In the original version of the pilot, there was an entire subplot surrounding Floortje, a foreign exchange student who was close to the Dunphy family. According to series co-creator Steve Levitan, Floortje had once lived with the Dunphys and even had a crush on Claire years earlier. To make matters even more complicated, Mitchell had a crush on Floortje. But during production, Levitan and his co-creator Christopher Lloyd came to realize that the added cast member was overcomplicating the already packed series premise and cut the character out. As it stands, the documentary angle of Modern Family goes unexplained and is shown as more of a narrative device than a part of the actual story, as originally envisioned. With its decades of history, more than a dozen movies, and nearly as many TV shows, the Star Trek franchise has seen its fair share of deleted scenes, and a few of those included characters we've never seen before or since, like Khan's infant child in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. On the small screen, a character was removed from the series finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation. In the landmark 1994 episode All Good Things, an alien captain named Androna was left on the cutting room floor. The scene was cut in order to focus the story more on the main cast, but the fact that Androna was played by Martha Hackett makes the affair noteworthy. It was the first of 3 times the actor was cut from the franchise. Later the same year, Hackett was cast in Star Trek Deep Space Nine as Tarul, a Romulan assigned to the USS Defiant to operate its cloaking device. Although she seemed destined to become a recurring character, Tarul vanished after just 1 appearance.
I know their names, and I'm not here to make friends.
A year later, Hackett landed the role of Seska, a Bajoran freedom fighter on Star Trek Voyager. This time, Hackett appeared in a dozen episodes. But after it was revealed that Seska was really a Cardassian spy, she was killed off at the beginning of the 3rd season. The 2016 supernatural crime thriller comedy Preacher is based on a groundbreaking 1990s comic book series by Garth Ennis and the late Steve Dillon. An unorthodox story about a religious man whose body becomes the host of a demon child, it was full of eccentric heroes and villains never before seen in comics. When it made it to the screen, the story was surprisingly faithful to its bizarre source material. But at least one major change was made. Until it wasn't. One of the biggest villains in the original comic was Odin Quincannon, a meatpacking magnate and one of the richest men in Texas. For the pilot, the character was changed to a woman, Vyla Quincannon, with actor Elizabeth Perkins cast in the role. But during production, after Perkins had apparently filmed all of her scenes, producers decided to revert the character back to the original version, Jackie Earle Haley stepping into the blood-soaked shoes of Odin Quincannon. As for why they decided to change the character back to Odin, series showrunner Sam Catlin explained on Reddit. Elizabeth Perkins is an amazing actor, but we realized post-pilot we wanted to go with more old-school Quincannon.
Which is my daughter? Which is the cow?
A cultural touchstone of the 1990s, The X-Files boasts one of the best pairs of law officers in the history of television.
Sorry, nobody down here but the FBI's most unwanted.
But if things had gone differently, the duo of Fox Mulder and Dana Scully may have had a third wheel. Early versions of the pilot script had a character named Ethan Minette in the role of Scully's boyfriend. It's said at one point that he's a Washington, D.C. lobbyist, and he has at least some knowledge of Fox Mulder when Scully tells him about her upcoming assignment.
His name's Fox Mulder.
Spooky Mulder?
He shows up in quite a few deleted scenes, suggesting he could have been a major part of the show. But series creator Chris Carter felt the relationship just wasn't working. In a behind-the-scenes DVD documentary, Carter explained why.
It was very easy to cut Ethan out because it just slowed down the scenes where you would see Mulder and Scully together.
While the character never appeared on screen, the deleted scenes can be found online, with actor Tim Ransom in the role. The 2019 UK comedy Ghost is a supernatural sitcom about Allison and Mike Cooper, a young couple who come into possession of a stately manor that just so happens to be haunted. But rather than being occupied by a single ghost, the home is the residence of seemingly everyone who has ever lived there. This includes a 19th century poet, a veteran of World War II, and even a caveman. But according to series star Matthew Bainton, there was one character who didn't make it into the show. In an interview with Radio Times, he said, "I think it was because the scripts were too long, and it was also something that would have been tricky to keep doing. But we had a character throughout the first series that we then cut." The character's name was Pete, and he would have lived on an adjoining property that no longer existed, and thus had no companions or new residents to haunt. The initial idea was for Pete to serve as a point of comparison for the ghosts haunting the Coopers. Because while they aren't happy that the new owners plan to renovate the home and transform it into a hotel, things could be worse. After expanding onto Disney Plus with shows like WandaVision and Loki, the Marvel Cinematic Universe expanded even further onto the platform in 2022 with the release of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, a superhero courtroom procedural about Bruce Banner's cousin Jennifer Walters, played by Tatiana Maslany.
It's true. I am a Hulk.
In the series, fans were treated to several offbeat supervillains making their MCU debut, including Titania, Man-Bull, and the Wrecking Crew. And we nearly got one more. Series concept artist Wes Burt posted images of his version of the character known as Bushwacker on Instagram in November 2022. In the comics, the character is a former priest who becomes a mercenary after the death of his family. He gets a cybernetic arm and goes on to menace the likes of Daredevil, Punisher, and Wolverine, among others. Burt explained that Bushwacker was slated to show up in an early episode of She-Hulk, but was left out when it came time to start production, possibly due to the effects-heavy nature of the character. Bushwacker isn't the only Marvel villain to miss out on an MCU debut in 2022. There was also Bushman, a deadly mercenary from the comics who was a regular thorn in the side of the supernatural hero Moon Knight.
Turns out going AWOL in a fugue state gets you discharged from the military, so I went work for hire for my old CO, Bushman.
The character was initially supposed to appear in Moon Knight's Disney Plus series, but was cut during the writing process. In fact, Raoul Bushman was initially supposed to be the show's big bad. Head writer Jeremy Slater acknowledged that the idea was for Bushman to be a rival mercenary to Oscar Isaac's Mark Spector, and the season would have been capped off with the villain becoming the avatar for an ancient Egyptian god to rival Moon Knight's Khonshu. But the filmmakers had a change of heart. Slater explained why in a post on X, writing, "His only recognizable villain was Bushman, who just felt too close to Black Panther's Eric Killmonger. Both characters are twisted freelance mercenaries out to kill their superhero rival, and Slater wanted to do something different. But according to Slater's tweet, because Moon Knight has few recognizable villains, we decided to invent a villain instead. The result was Ethan Hawke as cult leader Arthur Harrow.
That's right, that's why I'm here.
Though Bushman is mentioned offhand, he's never seen on screen.